wanted to talk specifically about the offensive line and your evaluation, because you were out there all season long alongside these guys playing at two different positions for you in 2023. So I wanted to start off, how would you evaluate the overall interior line play? Speaking of you, Maile, Waylon Lapuaho, even Caleb Etienne at points. Like, how do you feel the interior offensive line play was this season overall, now in hindsight?
I think obviously it could have been better. And, I think I'm happy with where it trended at the end of the season. I thought we were playing at a pretty high level overall. And, but I think, with changes in personnel and guys getting shuffled around and moved and stuff, that made it a little tough to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. But, overall, I'm proud of those guys and the way they played. And, for Paul to come through, and he battled through some injuries and played and, brought some guts to our O-line a little bit and kind of put himself in a good position to move on now and make a run at the next level. And, and Waylon to come in as a young guy and earn the job and play pretty well for the majority of the season. I'm really proud of those guys.
Now, obviously, there are younger players that be moving up the depth chart, at least in theory. Is there a young player or two? Because I know that you guys didn't have a ton of rotation along that offensive line during the season. Is there a young guy that you're kind of saying, okay, that dude's coming and he's going to be a really, really good one?
I kind of feel that way about, the majority of those young guys. Because multiple of them have been in the program now for a couple of seasons. And, we're going to have some new ones coming in soon. And I think everyone in the room has a chance to move up in this next season, just I think with where the O-line is at from a personnel perspective, there really is options for dudes everywhere to kind of move up and earn a spot either as a starter or in the two deep. And so you can really kind of point at any one of those guys who was on the two deep this year and traveled, and even some guys who weren't, that could make a push for it this next season.
You can say it's Trevor Pay. He's going to come home off now.
Trev's going to have to come in and earn that.
He is. For those who don't know, Trevor Pay is Connor's younger brother. He's currently serving a mission and will be joining the program here during the offseason. Now, I wanted to talk to you about the tackles as well. Kingsley obviously had all that hype coming into the season. I thought he performed fairly admirably, battling through some injuries himself. Caleb Etienne started out on the outside, then moved to the interior, allowing Brayden Keim to come in. How would you evaluate the tackle play for you guys?
I'm proud of those guys too, man. I think especially the back half of the season that Brayden really did a good job, and his play trended up each week, and with Kingsley too, just being kind of the consistent and playing at a high level, and so I think both of those guys did a really good job, and I know Caleb had his struggles, but he also had his moments where he did really well. And so, I'm I'm proud of those guys and the way they fought through the season. Because, I think especially for us as a group, when we were down and things weren't going well, and you could start to kind of feel the vibes that change was on the way. That would have been a really easy time for the group to kind of can it and be like, you know what, we're not even going to push through and kind of just survive till the end of this season. And I'm really proud of the group as a whole for battling back and coming out and really kind of establishing our will in those last two games, especially in the run game for us, which is, something we pride ourselves on. And so overall, I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of the group for how they fought throughout the season when it wasn't going, the way we had hoped. Because everybody can be hyped to play and, be fired up and flying around when you're playing well. that's easy. Anybody can do that, but it takes a little something different than when you're kind of down on the ground and getting kicked and, to kind of fight back from that. So that's one thing, even though the results on the scoreboard weren't what we wanted, I am proud of that.
Now, you talked about how Caleb, he went back and forth, but we talked with him late in the season, and he talked about the move into the inside at guard, and he told the media, "I'm coming back." He'd walked on senior day, and of course, the question was, well, you saw that he's planning on coming back to play for BYU, and he plans on playing guard, and he used the term, it gave him a new lease on life as an offensive lineman. Why is that from your perspective? Why would that give him a new opportunity in a way?
Well, because I think most people don't realize how different every position is. It's moving from right tackle to right guard is like moving from receiver to tight end.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the same. And it might look the same, on TV.
Yeah.
And it might look like you're doing similar things, but your angles, your techniques, the timing, all of it's different. The muscle memory. And so it is kind of like a fresh start in a way. And for him, I think we've talked about this a couple times, kind of getting in that guard space where he can just utilize his size and strength. I think that gave him a lot of confidence doing that. And, and so because it is so new and it's so different that a new lease on life is not a bad way to describe it. So.
All right. And I just wondered about that because you mentioned the fact that it's a very different thing. And he talked about it. He's like, it's actually, you're not playing as much space is the term I think he used. And you're right. When you're a tackle, I've talked with enough guys on the offensive line in the past. As a tackle, you have a responsibility to guard a lot more of the acreage, I guess you should say, on the offensive line versus you as a center or a guard, where it's kind of, you're playing in a phone book, as they say.
Yeah, no, that's definitely the truth. I think for the interior guys, the bigger challenge is power and size. Whereas, on the outside, it's a little more, you just have more space to work with and have to handle, distance a little more.
Now, you mentioned that you felt like you guys were trending up at the end of the season, and I would agree. I thought you guys had some of your best performances in offensive line, especially in the last two games against both Oklahoma and Oklahoma State. What do you think changed, or what did you guys finally figure out at the tail end of the season that you can obviously look back on? But then I guess a two-part question: what can you take as you move forward here as an offensive line?
I think those last couple weeks, it was, kind of your back's against the wall a little bit, and it was kind of, for us, it was like, screw it, we're gonna do this. And and A-Rod was on the same page where he's like, look, this is what we're gonna run. Like, you don't have to think about anything else, just go get this done. And so I think just that mindset and kind of simplifying a few things made it a little easier for us to just sink into combo blocks and do some of those things and get guys moving off the line. Because if we can give Aiden just a little bit of space, the dude will get 5 or 6 yards. And so I think that was a big thing for us. And, just an emphasis on just doing your job. Right, you don't have to worry, because it's easy when things aren't going well to start worrying about all kinds of other stuff, and kind of get away from what is most important and what your job is on that specific play. I kind of fall into that a lot at center, since I'm making the calls and kind of telling people where to go and making checks and doing things like that. And it's easy for your mind to go elsewhere when at the end of the day you have one job on this play. And so I think just a renewed focus on that as well as a group, I think those are kind of the things that made the difference for us.
All right. So if I were to ask you, and this goes across, like I said, this goes across 5 positions. This might be hard for you to do, but if I were to ask you to give you your offensive line, you yourself, as well as the other guys on the line, if I were to ask you to give yourself a letter grade for how the season overall went, what would you say?
That's a hard question. I don't know if I'll be able to slap a letter grade on it, because so much changes. There's so much variety,
Mhm.
and there's so many other variables. It would be easier to do it game by game. But
Okay, so let me interject then. So what would you say the best game your best performances in O-line was of the season? Do you have one in mind?
I'd probably say Oklahoma.
Okay. And then maybe the worst.
There were a couple in there that were not good. That's a good question. I mean, Sam Houston's got to be in there.
Okay. So
that was a pretty rough game for the offense in general. But that one didn't go very well. And then I mean, it's kind of hard when you have. It sucks that I have this many to choose from.
That's a
I
fair.
don't know if I could pick out another. Probably not West Virginia, actually. Ironically, we actually graded out pretty high as a group.
Okay.
From West Virginia. There was just some other stuff going on in that game, but I don't know. Sam Houston is the first one that pops into my head where it's like after that game, I was kind of just like, oh man.
Well, I guess that's the dichotomy. The season opener, the home opener, you turn maybe your least your worst performance of the season, and then the home finale against Oklahoma, your best. So I guess there was a progression there in a way.
Yeah, in a way. I think it was probably more like this than, but it was like this. And we eventually made it up there a little bit. So
started low, ebbed and flowed, but finally, as you said, you guys got it going at the end. All right. So thank you for that evaluation.